to you by...
There exist mysterious creatures from Irish folklore, originally described as small, bearded men who worked as solitary shoemakers. They are supernatural beings linked to ancient Irish mythology. And are known for their trickery and cunning nature. Legends say they hoard gold, often hiding it at the end of a rainbow, and if captured, they may grant 3 wishes, but always in a way that twists the wisher's intent. Their reputation as elusive and deceitful creatures made them both feared and admired in Irish storytelling. Over time, these creatures have evolved from troublesome spirits into symbols of luck and prosperity, especially in Irish American culture. The modern image of a green-clad, gold-hoarding trickster became widespread through literature, advertising, and pop culture. While they are now often associated with good fortune, some interpretations reimagine them as malevolent creatures, returning to their trickster roots in a more sinister way. Top of the morning, friends, and happy St. Patty's Day. We have come far on this channel, somehow without ever discussing a little film that I grew up watching as a young stuffy, that definitely left a lasting impression. The film follows the vengeful antics of a mischievous and sadistic leprechaun, played by Warwick Davis, who, after being robbed of his pot of gold, embarks on a murderous rampage to reclaim it. The story begins with Dan O'Grady, returning from Ireland with stolen gold, only to find himself confronted by the supernatural entity he has unwittingly angered. O'Grady manages to trap the leprechaun in a crate, but suffers a stroke before he can destroy it. 10 years later, a father and daughter move into the O'Grady farmhouse, unknowingly unleashing the creature. With the help of a trio of local misfits, including love interest Nathan, dim-witted Ozzy, and young Alex, Tori must find a way to defeat the leprechaun before he kills them all.
Leprechaun.
Released in 1993, Leprechaun is a horror comedy film directed by Mark Jones, starring Warwick Davis as the titular creature, and Jennifer Aniston in her feature film debut, which, as I understand it, she now tries to strike from the history books by ignoring its existence entirely. While the film was critically panned upon its release, it has since gained a cult following, particularly among fans of campy horror and low-budget monster flicks. Despite its simplistic premise, Leprechaun follows a relatively traditional slasher formula. The film oscillates between horror and comedy, never fully committing to either. While this tonal inconsistency weakens the narrative's effectiveness, it also contributes to its obviously intentional humor, a key factor in its cult status. The pacing is uneven, with periods of sluggish exposition interspersed with bursts of cartoonish violence. However, the film's refusal to take itself too seriously allows it to embrace its absurdity, which can be seen as both a weakness and a strength. The film's most memorable aspect is undoubtedly Warwick Davis's performance as the Leprechaun. He brings a blend of menace and humor to the role, delivering gleefully over-the-top lines and reveling in the character's theatrical nature. His portrayal elevates what could have been a very forgettable creature feature into something uniquely entertaining. Davis commits fully to the absurdity of the role, reciting rhymes, cackling maniacally, and using a variety of bizarre methods to dispatch his victims, including a fucking pogo stick. Jennifer Aniston, in her first major role, delivers a serviceable performance. While her character is somewhat generic, an affluent city girl reluctantly adjusting to rural life, Aniston's natural charisma makes her likable enough. Her role does not hint at the stardom she would later achieve, but it remains an interesting footnote in her career. The supporting cast, particularly Mark Holton as Ozzy, leans into the film's exaggerated tone. Ozzy, played as an endearing but dim-witted character, serves as a comic relief, though some of his scenes veer into caricature. Leprechaun is not a film with deep thematic aspirations, but certain motifs are present, with the leprechaun representing a literal embodiment of its consequences. Those who attempt to hoard or steal his gold face brutal retribution, reinforcing a morality tale reminiscent of old folklore. However, the film lacks the nuance or cultural authenticity to fully explore these ideas in a meaningful way. Additionally, the film plays with the traditional horror tropes, albeit in a satirical fashion. The idea of an evil supernatural force terrorizing a small group of people in an isolated location is a standard slasher setup. But the leprechaun's exaggerated personality and preference for riddles and wordplay make him an unconventional horror antagonist, in the vein of Freddy Krueger. While Leprechaun was not well received upon its release, it found an audience on home video and cable television. Its mix of horror and absurdity appealed to fans of campy cinema, leading to a franchise that includes numerous sequels, such as Leprechaun in the Hood and Leprechaun Back to the Hood, which lean even further into the comedy aspects. The film's notoriety also stems from Jennifer Aniston's later fame, making it an amusing early entry in her filmography. Moreover, this film has influenced the horror genre by demonstrating the viability of low-budget horror comedies. While it may not have the prestige of major horror franchises like Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, its cult success paved the way for the absurd horror comedy hybrids. The titular character remains a recognizable figure in pop culture, often cited in discussions of bizarre horror icons. What we are delivered here is ultimately an interesting blend of 90s slasher horror and creature feature tropes, which gives it a unique identity within the horror genre. The 90s was a transitional period for slasher films. The golden age of the 80s was winding down, and the genre had started embracing meta-horror. Leprechaun, however, sticks to the more classical slasher formula, but injects it with dark humor and an unusual antagonist. Much like Freddy Krueger, the Leprechaun isn't just a mute, lurking presence like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. He has personality, quips, and a supernatural backstory. His rhyming dialogue and mischievous nature make him a slasher villain in the vein of Freddy, but with a more whimsical, fairy tale-like menace. Slasher films thrive on inventive kills, and Leprechaun delivers, often tying them to Irish folklore or gold-related themes. Jennifer Aniston's character, Tori, loosely fits the final girl mold, though she lacks that traditional virginal innocence. The film also features the isolated setting, the skeptical authority figures, and the disregarded supernatural warnings, all hallmarks of slasher horror. What sets Leprechaun apart from standard slasher fare is its lean into creature feature storytelling, rather than relying solely on a masked killer archetype. Unlike human slashers, the Leprechaun is a supernatural creature with magical abilities. His powers include teleportation, voice mimicry, and even regeneration, making him more akin to a mythological monster than a traditional slasher villain. The Leprechaun's backstory is steeped in Irish mythology, giving him a more ancient, evil feel. Like other classic creature feature antagonists, such as Pumpkinhead or the Boogeyman, his obsession with gold makes him function similarly to old-school monsters with a singular driving force. Think The Mummy's Love Curse or Dracula's Bloodlust. Classic creature features like Gremlins or Critters balance horror with comedy, and Leprechaun takes this further with slapstick and exaggerated antics. This comedic edge distances it from the grim slasher flicks of the previous decade, making it more palpable for 90s audiences who are moving towards self-aware horror. Leprechaun is far from a cinematic masterpiece, but it holds a particular charm, every pun intended, that continues to entertain audiences. Its mix of slapstick violence, cheesy dialogue, and an unforgettable performance by Warwick Davis make it an enjoyable watch for those who appreciate campy horror. While its tonal inconsistency, uneven pacing, and the lack of genuine scares prevent it from being a great film, it succeeds as an amusing oddity in the horror genre. For fans of so bad it's good horror films, Leprechaun is worth a watch. Those seeking serious horror, however, may want to look elsewhere. Either way, the film's legacy as a cult classic ensures that the Leprechaun's misadventures will not be forgotten anytime soon.
Fuck you, Leprechauns.
Well, friends, that's going to be all for this one. I hope you seek out this film for yourself if you've somehow never seen it. I think it's a perfect watch for St. Patrick's Day. If you want to add this to your collection, I've put a link down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, subscribe for more content, help us get those watch hours up. And if you really want to help support this channel, we do have a Patreon. And if you do decide to become a member on Patreon, subscribing to our Rated R tier level will get you access to the entire ETF digital archive. We have been hard at work slowly digitizing and preserving our entire VHS collection. We're trying to do our part in keeping the spirit of that VHS look and feel alive. And now, with the help of the Plex platform, we're able to offer you a chance to be able to enjoy it as well. Just follow the link down in the description to our Patreon page and sign up today. Until next time, stay safe, beware the leprechaun, and as always, thanks for watching.